Okay, so we're recording now. So welcome to our week 6 discussion. This week we are talking about competitive and effective brand positioning. Now, in our previous class, we talked about STP, and in that discussion, we looked into the 3 steps: segmenting, targeting, and positioning. So that was a light touch, like very lightly we discussed those, and we only explored the definition. So this week, our core focus is to understand some strategies, like understanding how can finally a brand position itself and in the very competitive market scenario. That's what we're going to explore. So key discussion question will be, how can a firm develop and establish an effective positioning in the market? How do marketers identify and analyze competition? How are brands successfully differentiated? And what are the differences in positioning and branding with a small business? So these are the core focus of our today's discussion. So we'll start again with these 3 steps: segmenting, targeting, and positioning. So as you can see, that positioning is the last step, right? In the last stage, you do the positioning, which is the final sort of stance or the position of a brand in the market. Because first you do your segmentation, you understand who exactly you are going to sell, then you target exactly, and then finally you position yourself. But how do you do that in the very competitive market scenario? Because there could be so many others with the same positioning, right? You want to position yourself as a high value brand. That's fine. But there are so many other brands and they're already in the same boat. They also want to position themselves. So that's what we're going to discuss today. So again, what positioning is. So the image, as you can see, reflects is standing out. The act of designing a company's offering an image to occupy a distinctive place in the minds of the target market. So again, we're repeating this one so that we all are clear with this definition, is that positioning is simply act of designing a company's offering an image to occupy a distinctive place in the target market. Now, if you remember last week, we finished talking about personal branding, right? And in that, my YouTube video, the one that I made, if you have seen that YouTube video that I shared, I told you all that it's really important that you develop your own positioning as well. So, because it's really important that we are actually who we are. People make us realize, that's what makes us who we are, how we are being seen, how we're being perceived by people. That's what makes our identity. Individually, you could be whoever you are. You could be a no one. Okay, you could be a no one, but it's the people, the way they perceive, that's what makes you who you are. And there are lots of I can use funny example, let's try to relate. Okay, let's talk about Hero Alum. Okay, in Bangladesh, how many of you know Hero Alum? Tell me.
All known.
Unfortunately, we all know.
Popular face.
A very popular face, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
He should be really proud of himself. In an MBA class in Brack University, we're talking about him. He must have done something right in his life, right? That we're even talking about a person. Now, the reason I'm telling, it's not to make fun out of anyone or not to mock anyone. There's no such intention. But what I'm trying to say is that, these days is all about how are we being perceived by people. Now, it's not that a person like Mr. Alam is someone is dashing, handsome, or super talented, or he has got some great skill. It's not exactly like that. But still, he does whatever he does and he does that. He makes or he creates fun, and that is being liked or that is being perceived as funny by many people, and that's what has developed this perception, and hence he became a celebrity in the social media field, in the social media world. If you see in social media, definitely he is a big shot in the social media, right? So the simple thing, positioning, is it's your image, and how do you create your image, and how do you create that image in front of the public, or how do public or people perceive you? So in this case, we're using customers, like in the eyes of the customers, how do they perceive you as a brand? What's your identity in the brand? And we have seen that there are many successful brands that, despite having great amount of investment, or great deal of of reputation and everything, they could not maintain their position. And we've talked about like failed brand like Nokia, which used to be the leader in the telecommunications, in the phone or mobile phones, right, at some point. But the perception among people's eye, it dropped for Nokia. Nowadays, we no longer we think that Nokia is the best smartphone, but it's us. At some point, we perceive Nokia as the best, brand in the market. But eventually, some other brands took over that place. So it's really important for the brands to maintain that position as well. It's not about just occupy that position once, but it's a recurring thing. It's something that you need to maintain that into your consumer's mind. That's what really important is. So positioning is a strategic process, right? Now we're trying to sort of look into this one in a more analytic perspective, the definition of positioning from a more analytical perspective. Positioning is a strategic process that marketers use to determine the place or niche. This is another terminology that you need to familiarize yourself. This is called niche, or someone might pronounce it as niche, or actually there's no right wrong pronunciation, but niche is what the pronunciation should sound like. So what's the niche an offering should occupy in a given market relative to other customer alternatives? When you position a product or service, you need to understand your place, your rank, attitude, and outcomes. So these are the few things that you need to keep in mind. So first, you determine the place or niche. What is your niche? Or what's the brand's niche? So by niche, we mean that where is the level, or where is the exact, domain, or where is exactly the space where they would like to stay. And we talked about this again in the perspective of different brands. We talked about watch, we talked about car, we talked about shopping malls, we talked about clothing brands. And we'll see in all of these brands, there are some niche. Some are high value, high quality. Some are economical, low quality, or moderate quality. So exactly, you need to pick your niche, which of these niche that you'd like to jump, so that you can place yourself exactly into that place. Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna use my slides are a bit messed up. So I'm just trying to use some of my, yeah, don't worry, I'll just reorder these slides when I will be sharing this slide with you. So again, positioning, customer wants and needs, company capabilities, competitive actions. So price and quality are predominantly the denominators of the niche. price and quality. These two are predominantly the denominator of the niche where you would like to be seen. And we have seen this 4x4 matrix before. And this is also known as a perceptual map as well. And this is where we could plot ourselves. So if you go to this quadrant on the top, which is top quality and top price, and you could be on this quadrant, you could be on this quadrant, you could be on this quadrant. Is someone trying to scribble, or it's me? Anyway, so we were trying to look into different examples. Now, imagine that you have a brand, right? A water bottle. Let's talk in reference to water bottles, like mineral waters. So there are different types of mineral waters in the market, different types of bottles. You can see the way they have bottled themselves. So you're identifying your competitors, all right? So on the right-hand side, you see these 4 bottles lined up. So these are 4 different designs of mineral water bottles. So where would you like to see yourself? Now, these 4 could be the cheaper brand, and maybe on the left-hand side, these 2 could be the more expensive brand. So where would you like to plot yourself? And how do consumers perceive yourself? What's your, how are you different than others? These are the 4 things that you need to keep in mind. So in order to actually understand, I'll probably go back to the perceptual map a little bit later, and I'll go back to the concept of differentiation is one of the concepts that comes up when you want to create your brand position. So in order to distinctively position yourself, one thing you need to keep in mind that you need to have some differentiation from your competitors. Unless you have some differentiation, no one would be able to actually identify what is your positioning. So to make a product or service stand out from its competitors in ways that provide unique value to the customer, identifies a set of characteristics and benefits that make a product different and better for a target audience. So customers value when they're evaluating choices, and competitors cannot easily copy. So this is what the differentiation, concept of differentiation is. So it identifies a set of characteristics and benefits. Okay, so you need to have some characteristics and some benefits that will make your product different and better than your target or than your competitor's product, so that customers can understand. So when you compare 2 brands, or there are lots of mineral water bottles, but when you look at my company's mineral water bottle, you can easily see some differentiation. If it's like a me too strategy, or the same bottling, same packaging, same thing, so how would consumers be able to perceive you as different? There's no way. So you need to create some differentiation. Now look into Bangladesh, in the Bangladesh market, pick an industry. Let's say if we talk about what industry should we talk about? Let's talk about the startups these days, e-commerce startups. Lots of e-commerce startups are emerging these days. Now, every e-commerce store, we know that, yes, they're all e-commerce, but how or why one e-commerce store is different than the other one? There must be some factors which should differentiate. There should be some niche. Okay, Samina, go ahead.
Sir, Abhirad is trying to rejoin again, and he cannot. Please accept him.
I have accepted whoever is waiting. I have accepted everyone. So as I can see, I have accepted everyone to
Yes,
enter
sir.
the
He said
class.
he has
Okay,
received.
that's good. Yeah. So I get a notification. If someone is waiting, I get a notification and then I let them into the class.
Thank you, sir.
That's okay. Okay, so the thing is that as we're talking about that e-commerce, so what is the distinct value that consumers are able to get? And that's what the concept of differentiation is. So as we to summarize, we have understood that positioning and differentiation is interlinked with one another. In order to distinctively position yourself, you need to have some differentiation. So a product differentiation is a concept in marketing which refers to some distinctive attributes of a product or service which will identify a brand's product or service from its competitors. That's simply differentiation. So whenever you think about your own brand, you must think about some differentiation aspect. What is that will differentiate my brand? And only then you'll be able to distinctively position your brand. So there's differences between positioning and differentiation. We just need to keep that in mind. We should not just confuse one with another one. Okay, sometimes these two are being confused. So let's just try to understand that we don't confuse this concept with one another one. Sorry. And we're using some examples, obviously American examples, because the book is American. So, sometimes the American example comes up, but at least we know these brands. Like, Walmart is a popular American superstore. So their positioning is a wide selection of products people want at the lowest prices. So that's what Walmart's positioning is, lowest prices. And their differentiators. What are their differentiators than their competitors? Wide selection and low prices. These are the two simple things. So what Walmart wants their customers to go to their store and they will find a wide variety of products, but low price is what they are known for. Target, on the other hand, they're slightly trendy, fashionable products at a reasonable price. Just see the difference. Like, Walmart's was lowest price and Target is reasonable price. So it's not lowest. And the differentiators is continually refreshed on-trend product selection. So they upgrade their brands or they change with the trend rather than keeping the same. And lastly, Macy's. So Macy's is, I'm not familiar with Macy's as well because I've never been to US or I don't know about this brand. So Macy's is probably one of the popular brand, and as it reads that it's an upscale brand for current fashion. So Macy's fashion, it's an upscale. So in Australia, there's lots of brands like this. In Australia, there's one brand called David Jones. So David Jones is like, the top end, like, and they've got more expensive, broad selection of most wanted upscale brands. So they are more pricey and high quality products. So with your positioning, when you position yourself, you need to probably draw a table like this. First, your positioning, where would you like to position yourself? And second is, what are the differentiators? You need to at least come up with some differentiators that will differentiate your brand from your competitors. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, that's good. So now let's talk about what are the steps of positioning process. When it comes to competitive brand positioning, we need to understand what are the steps in the positioning process. Okay, so let's go through the steps. So step number one is to confirm your understanding of the market dynamics. That's the very first thing. Even before you want to position yourself, you need to understand the market dynamics. Can someone tell me what is the meaning of the term market dynamics?
Maybe, sir, the frequent change of consumer behavior or the frequent change of targeted consumers.
Or the trend.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the word dynamics is like a more generic word that we can use everywhere. Like, what are the, industry dynamics? So dynamics means what are those factors that are frequently changing in the industry or in the market. That's what the term dynamics refers to. So something that is dynamic, that means it's not static, it's dynamic. It's always changing, it's always moving. That is what called dynamic. The opposite of dynamic would be static. That is something just remaining at one place. So first, you need to understand the market dynamics. It's really important because market is rapidly changing. Market is very rapidly shifting and changing, sometimes upwards, sometimes downwards, different trends. So even before you want to position yourself at the step number one, you have to understand your market dynamics. Next, identify your competitive advantages. So you need to, again, come up with your competitive advantages. So what are those areas where you can claim yourself that, yes, I am in an advantageous position than my competitors, if you want to get into the business? Go ahead, Nine.
Sir, if a sudden change in the business comes, then it would be called market dynamics. Like nowadays, there is a big shortage of chip. So as a result, the semiconductor making industries is falling short, facing the shortage of chips. So can it be a market dynamics because it is a sudden change?
Of course, yes. That's a very important one. It is a sudden change, and all of this is happening. So in every industry, there are some trends or some factors that are happening if you look at the environment, because we talked about before that the business does not operate alone in the society. Business is an institution which is related with every other human affair in the society. So whatever is happening in the society or even within the industry, that will have some bearings, that will have some impact into the business. And these are market dynamics. So it's really important as a marketer just to keep your eyes and ears open on what is happening around the world, because the businesses are globalized these days. So anything happening will likely to affect the business world, right? For instance, let's say COVID-19, right? COVID-19 was obviously it's a dynamics. It's just changed the whole world, the business landscapes and everything. See, tell me which of these industries got really affected by COVID-19?
So pharmacy business.
Pharmacy business? So
you asked which industry has not been affected by COVID. That's why
I asked has been affected. So can you tell me which has been affected?
Sir, the tourism industry.
Yes, the tourism, restaurant.
Yes, they were the biggest hit, right? Like, the hit of the COVID was probably the biggest on the tourism market, the travel and tourism market, and the hospitality and the food, all of the restaurant. They're the one who had the biggest impact. But tell me, which were the brands which was really benefited out of the COVID?
Pharmaceutical companies, they are being benefited.
E-commerce industry.
E-commerce shopping.
Yeah, that's right. E-commerce,
Communication.
communication industry, right? All the telecommunication industries, all the other social media platforms, they were the biggest, beneficiaries. They're the biggest, what would we say? সবচেয়ে বেশি লাভবান হয়েছে তারা, right? যে কোভিডের ফলে all of these, like whether you say Zoom or like all of this virtual platform of communication. In fact, statistically it was found that more billionaires or millionaires were produced during COVID-19. COVID-19 there was more billionaires and millionaires compared to other time in the history. So these are market dynamics. I mean, so you have to understand these things. These are all going to affect your business in many ways. Second step is identifying your competitive advantage. So we'll go through each of these one by one. I've got some bullet points for each of these. So let me just go to each of these one by one. Third is choosing your competitive advantages that define your market. Fourth is define your positioning strategy. And five is communicate and deliver. Now let's go to each of these one by one. Okay. So confirming your understanding about target market and answers to following questions. To understand market dynamics, here's some questions you might ask. In which product or service or market category, also called the frame of reference, do you plan to use this positioning? Okay. So think about the product or service or market category. So what is your frame of reference? So it's like a frame of reference. Where do you like to frame yourself? So think about that. Which target segment is your focus for the positioning you are developing? Where exactly you're trying to focus yourself? Think about that. What factors do these buyers evaluate when they make a purchasing decision? Okay, so when these buyers, they are trying to buy something, what are those factors they're going to evaluate? How do these buyers view your competitors in the category? So these are a few factors that will tell you the market dynamics, what's happening in the market. So these are some questions you need to ask. In step number 2, identifying your competitive advantages. A trait, quality, or capability that allows you to outperform your competition. Okay, so again, probably highlight these 3 keywords here: a trait, a quality, or capability. Out of these 3, what do you think that will allow you to outperform the competition? So outperform means what? Beat your competition or defeat your competition. So you need to have some of those. Imagine you want to fight with someone, right? You want to have a fight with someone. What's your competitive advantage than the other? Maybe you could be stronger, maybe you could be more agile, maybe you could be more frugal, maybe you could some more techniques, like karate or something like that. So you need to have something if you really want to fight with someone, or you want to battle with someone or compete with someone. Gives your product, service, or brand an advantage over others in the purchasing decision. Comes from any or all of the following. So these are the 3. It could be either from one of these or from all of these. Obviously, we can understand price. So like we're talking about Walmart and Macy's. So the Walmart's competitive advantage is that they are the lowest provider, lowest price. That's what their competitive advantage is. Features. What features do the products embed? You need to talk about those features. Again, we talk about brands. When it comes to, let's say, a car brand like Toyota, and maybe some other brands which is nearly within the same range, let's say like Honda or Mazda, or brands like these. So when it comes to features, you should have something at least different than your closely related competitors. Okay, when it comes to like Lamborghini or Ferrari, we know these are all supercars, but still there should be some distinctive elements in Ferrari than Lamborghini. So in every product or industry where you are operating, you just need to keep this one in mind, that what is that do you have that is different than your competitors, so your competitors do not have that. Yeah, Naeem, go ahead.
Sir, user experience comes under features part, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's actually the benefits, I would say, because the user, what they're experiencing, that's what the benefit is. Like the product benefit is actually what gives the user experience. Yes, it comes from the features, but it's predominantly the benefits, and because the benefits is what will make the user experience. A product's benefits will have different level of user experience. A same product, I might have a different user experience and you might have a different experience, but in essence, the product has got the same benefit. But the user experience largely determined by what is that the users that they see. All right. Sorry. My PowerPoint is suddenly playing up a little bit. Okay, choose competitive advantages that define your niche. Okay. Perceptual map, lifestyle programming. Okay. Choose competitive advantages that define your niche. So this is again a TV channel. Like, these are different types of TV channel, as we can see. So you can plot yourself into these. When it comes to lifestyle programming, and how can these different channels can actually give you that niche, like where exactly is your niche. So look, the perceptual map, we were talking about, like price and quality. Now you can use different denominators. Okay, so as you can see, this one is younger to older, that's like one continuum, and the other continuum is escapism versus enrichment. So escapism means trying to obviously declutter things a little bit, or trying not to make things heavy, or something that's more subtle, rather than enrichment, that is obviously gives you more enriching experience, full of life and things like that. So it depends where exactly you want to plot yourself. Within the same category, what's your competitive advantage? Like here, like if you see like Discovery, or like History Channel, or travel channels and everything like that. So where do you see yourself? And even within your nearest competitors, the ones who are your nearest competitors, if we compare, why are you different than others? Like if we see like National Geographic Channel and Discovery, why Discovery Channel is different than National Geographic Channel? If you look at BBC, so why BBC is different than CNN? So choose your competitive advantages that define your niche. That's really important. That's step number 3. So these are some common strategies, common positioning strategies. And some examples are given here so that we understand it clearly. On the left-hand side, you can see the differentiators: category benefit, best fit for the customers, business approach, anti-competition, price, and quality. These are some, these are some differentiators here. Then you have your positioning strategy and some examples. So let's check out the first one. The first one says the category benefit, which is position yourself as owning an important benefit and delivering it better than anyone else. Okay. So in that category where you belong, so you have to display that in your product, that you have something that is different or better than anyone else. That you have to position yourself. Safety, like, example, if you look at the examples, Volvo, the car Volvo is predominantly known for extremely nice control, German engineering again, and safety ranking of Volvo car is very high. So their category benefit is it's a safe car. Hallmark, carrying shared. Hallmark is a brand we know. When you go to Hallmark, when it comes to different, events or different celebrations, like birthday, or you want to buy some gifts or some chocolates or something like that, that we have to go to Hallmark. And typically we buy something from Hallmarks. Most of the time we'll buy things for others, not for ourselves, because you want to greet someone, you want to give a gift to someone, or so many of these things. So similarly, there are some brands and examples are given here. Lots of great examples given here. Okay. So I want you guys to go through all of these. Once I'll share the slide back. It's really important that you go through these by your own. So don't forget to do that. So these are some positioning strategies, as we're talking about, in our previous slide, we were talking about identifying the competitive advantages. So anyway, one thing that also is important is called a positioning statement. Your positioning should have a statement, and that is one sentence that concisely benefits the target market and what you want customers to think about your brand. Includes the target market, the brand name, the key points of differentiation, the product service category, why customers should believe the positioning claims. So you need to have a distinctive positioning statement, and that could be when your brand, sometimes you'll see that brands will have a specific catchphrase about their brand. For instance, Pepsi brings you back to life. That's the slogan of Pepsi. LG product, catch statement, life is good. Whatever they're doing is trying to make life better. So one sentence that concisely identifies the target market and what you want customers to think about your brand includes these factors. So this is your positioning statement. You need to keep your positioning statement in mind. Formula for positioning statement. So how do you develop your positioning statement? So this is just like a draft. So don't worry about this one. but this draft was just kept here so that the people can actually understand. So two, and then you say your audience's name. The product X is the only category or frame of reference, that differentiation or points of difference that benefits delivered because you have reason to believe. So it's just like a format that's given. So it's easy. It doesn't get easier than this. Like, you can, in the brackets, you just have to put your brand or your name or your identity properly so that everyone can understand who you are. All right, let's have a quick 5 minutes break, okay? So as I shared lots of information to all of you, so maybe just have a bit of brain dump or maybe have a bit of pause on the brain. So let's just spend 5 minutes away. So you can turn off your camera, just turn off your microphone, don't get disconnected. And we'll come back after 5 minutes again, all right? Because it's really important to give some mental pause. So let's have some mental pause. Okay, so this is just like a template formula for your positioning statement. So two, in this parenthesis, you say, what is your target audience? Product X, again, is your product. Only category or frame of your reference. Again, frame of reference refers to the niche that points the differentiation of benefits delivered because reason to believe. So this is, as you can understand, this is more like a template that you're going to use in order to position yourself into your consumer's mind. And it's not an easy job. Okay. Criteria to evaluate positioning statement. All right. So this is just like the last step, that you need to have some criteria to evaluate your positioning statements. And these criteria are predominantly set up by marketers, but there's some common criteria, which is it tailored to the target market? Tailored means customized. Is it tailored to the target market? Is it simple, focused, and memorable? Does it provide an unmistakable picture of your product, service, or brand? Can you deliver on the promise you make? Does it provide helpful direction? So these are some criteria, all right? Now, this is not a fixed set of criteria, but these are just some indicative criteria based on which you can evaluate the positioning statement that you just developed in the other in the previous slides, as we discussed. All right. So now we're just going to talk about some, just need to reorder the slides. They just fit. Sorry, I'm just. Yeah, I had lots of slides. I need to just cut some slides and then probably change that. Anyway, brand mantras, right? So in the competitive realm of the business, every brand, they should have like a brand slogan, or you can say these are some buzzwords like brand mantra. What's your brand's mantra? Mantra is an in Hindi word, as you all understand, but in English, if we talk about what is mantras, brand slogan, it's your brand's slogan, it's your brand's code of identity, it's your brand's claim about themselves. For instance, Nike, authentic athletic performance, Disney, fun family entertainment. So think about what is going to be your brand mantra, which will then identify, consumers can easily see your competitive advantage and they can easily relate that. So we talked about this before, but again, just focusing on these things, that when you want to establish your brand's positioning, as you can see in this image, if you want to stand out than all the other competitors, so think about some of the category benefits, think about some compare to exemplars, think about product descriptors. We talked about these before, and these are different images, as you can see, apples, and these like characters. These are all providing the brand positioning, like how it's different than others. So differentiation strategy is something we can just talk about. There are lots of diagrams and everything here. Obviously, we'll try to be as specific as possible. So differentiation strategy is, as we understood, that your product differentiation is adding some features that will differentiate, that will separate one product from their competitor. So in order to differentiate yourself, as you can see that competitive advantage will be turning into your customer advantage. And some of your differentiation strategies are sustainable and some are leverageable. Leverageable means that you can leverage that for a short period of time, whatever is your competitive advantage, but maybe not for long. And there are some aspects which are sustainable. For instance, in this image, as you can see that the person is tall and short, that is something sustainable. It will never change. This will never change because that tall person will be better than the smaller ones, hypothetically. And again, this is just like our perception, the way you perceive. But there could be some leverageable, which are short term, and you can easily leverage from that. So these are leverageable. So if in your differentiation, you need to think about which type of differentiation are you talking about? Is it like something which is inherent, like like this human being, like being tall or small? That's inherent. Nothing can change. That's sustainable. It will sustain. But are there some leverageable aspect or not in the differentiation that you can really leverage from? Think about those. All right, here's another very useful tool. So hopefully you'll be able to understand the fonts that's in there. So this is called a brand positioning bullseye. So a bullseye is like, as you may have played dart game or something where it's a practice of target. So you'll have these many layers of that. If you want to position your brand, once you know what are your differentiation categories, then think about these. I'm not going through each of these now. I'll leave this for you to explore. And if you end up having any question, then definitely ask. But just keep these things in mind, that consumer target, consumer insight, consumer need state. So depending on each of these, the consumer takeaway will change. So this is called a blue brand positioning bullseye. So it's exactly like the analogy is exactly like as if you are playing a dart. Does anyone play dart? What's dart? Which game is dart?
So throwing a dart on the target.
Yes, that's right. So you throw the dart in your target, and there's a circle, like there's a point on the target board. That's when you hit the middle, it's called bullseye, like bullseye. That means you have hit exactly the right spot or the middle point. So when it comes to your own brand's positioning, you need to hit the bullseye as well. And how do you do that? These are different elements that you need to keep in mind. Now, it's a bit making things a bit complex. It doesn't have to be so complex, but that's just one concept. Probably you can just keep in your mind so that this will help you to understand this concept later. Means of differentiation. Okay, so keep in mind that we are actually talking about two things side by side. We're talking about positioning and we're talking about differentiation because one is linked with another one. And the differentiation will be created by your employees, by the channels, by the image services. They're the one who will create those image services. The image and the services. So these are all the factors that will create the differentiation. Okay, now some people are just coming and going in the class, which makes it a bit hard to concentrate because I have to, same time I'm getting this notification, I have to get them in the class while I'm still looking at the slide. So please try to stay in the class. Those who are entering the class late, make sure that you don't do that because I've already done the roll calling in the class. So, it's something you should try to avoid, not being late in the class.
Sir, I just joined from another laptop. I'm actually connected to another one right now. So I'm just going to shift to the other one. So I just got joined.
Yep, that's fair enough. Right. So we've come to know these steps of positioning, right? I hope we're all clear that what were those steps. We talked about each of these. Now there's something that I want to go through is called repositioning. What is repositioning? Okay. How do we reposition and when do we need to reposition? Reasons to consider repositioning. Competition, all right? That's one of the things. New competitors entering or leaving the market, competitors joining forces, competitors innovation that threatens to make your offering obsolete, competitive pricing strategies. So simply, these are some factors that will inspire you or that will influence you to reposition. What is repositioning? We'll try to understand. So two main drivers, competition and market environment. These are the main two things that you need to keep in mind before you want to reposition. So essentially repositioning is when you find that our current positioning in the market isn't working, then we have to reposition ourselves into the market. That's what the concept of repositioning is. So that means we have to re-establish our identity into consumers' mind. And who knows, consumers might like us more than before. So you need to create that reason so that you can reposition yourself in a way that will not affect your reputation. And we've seen the repositioning strategy many times. Can someone give me an example of repositioning or any brand doing some repositioning type things?
So we can talk about Nokia.
Okay.
They were using Symbian OS, and nowadays they tend to go to the Android OS and make some sales.
Yeah, and that's right. And Nokia is also coming up with new phones with lots of new features, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So depending on your competition or depending on the market environment, you need to consider that how do we repositioning. So we've looked through the steps, the strategies for positioning. We know those steps. What if things doesn't go by the book? What if there's like environmental volatile in environment and there are some problems? What if it does not work? So you need to think about some of these reasons to reposition. More reasons to consider repositioning. That's another thing. Sorry. Can someone tell me what was repositioning I was talking about?
If a brand thinks that they have to consider the market changes, they can reposition itself.
Okay. So depending on consumer trends and depending on some internal environment. So based on all of these, you might think about, okay, we will try to reposition ourselves. So repositioning is another thing that we need to keep in mind. Repositioning and market perception. So the repositioning process evaluates the established position of a product, service, or brand and focuses on how to alter the positioning. And with positioning market perception in order to improve competitiveness. Okay. So simply the reason of repositioning is that you want to assess yourself in the market because you have tried one positioning and you found, well, it didn't work. So now it's time for us to reposition our brand. Any other example of repositioning from the Bangladesh market?
Sir, I can give an example of Chilox.
Okay.
Sir, so when Chilox started, they said that they will sell burgers with cheap price, student friendly. So as a result, their burger price starts from 130 or 140. Then after 2 years of operation, they saw that their burgers price is low, but the reputation of the sauce in the burgers is very bad because people are saying that there are so many sauces and it's not a Chilox burger, it's a saucy burger. So as a result, at the September 2021, they changed their strategy. They increased their burger price. They set the minimum price 170 or 180, and they included the add one option. Like if anyone wants more sauce, then they can add more sauce. If anyone wants less sauce, they can add less sauce. Also, they included the burger, what should I say, bread option and many other options so that customers feel they are valued. And this actually made the repositioning again in this market.
Okay. All right, that's a good reflection. Well done. I like that.
Doing repositioning when the previous positioning is not working in the right way, right?
Yes, that's right. When your previous positioning in the market is not up to your expectation, or you're looking at few other things that are really attracting you, or that might impacting you. So these are the times that understand the current situation and then reposition to create some market perception. So same with Nokia. Nokia was like, they started, they were gone, but they're trying to come back again. Okay. So they're trying to come back again with new product and things like that. Right. So, so is there anyone who has confusion about the term positioning, or what is positioning now, or the steps in the positioning?
So what does it mean, the time of reference or frame of reference? Sorry, frame of reference.
Yeah, look, as I mentioned, frame of reference is the group where you would like to be associated. So the frame of reference means simply, in other words, it's more about the industry, okay? Where, what is the frame of reference to which you can relate to your business, or your well-being, or whatever that is. Suddenly you need something, or whatever the situation is. So how can each part of the marketing mix fulfill the positioning statement: product, price, place, and promotion? Okay, so these are the things. Okay, Samina, go ahead.
Sir, can you please explain point of parity?
Okay, point of parity means actually the point of difference. All right, so point of parity, how can you differentiate from one to another? And if we look from a very scientific perspective, like, what is that where you can simply differentiate yourself from your competitors? Sometimes it could be very subtle, sometimes it could be very, very visible, sometimes it could be easily seen, and sometimes it could not be seen easily. So your points of parity would be those crucial factors that will safeguard your product or your service from your competitors. Because once you go out, there are lots of doctors around you, lots of competition, but you need to keep that in mind, that what will be those factors that will fulfill the positioning statement.
Sir, if I say my product is less pricey in the market, and this would be considered the frame of reference, like in the industry my product is the less pricey.
Yeah, that's right. That's the frame of reference. Your frame of reference will be, you are within the lowest price provider category. So your categorization will be the other brands which are also providing the same product or service at a lower price. So your frame of reference would be, yes, price is my frame of reference, and then the other businesses around you. That will also tell you that whether that's the right way to go. Go ahead, Sakib.
While repositioning, should we change our differentiators, or can we just proceed without manipulating the differentiators?
Definitely, you have to change your differentiators, right? Because without the differentiators, how your consumers should be able to understand your difference? That's really important. So in repositioning, when you want to reposition yourself, if you see that your existing differentiators aren't working, you have to bring out some repositioning, and in your repositioning, you need to think about those. So that will be easy for you this time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, that's all right. Similarly, the other marketing mix things that you need to keep in mind, like, when it comes to pricing, how are you positioning your offering relative to competitors? If pricing is part of your positioning strategy, is your offering will align with the price you're asking customers to pay and things like that. Same goes with place, and the distribution channel and stuff like that. And then the promotions, which will again involve your advertising, or how do you promote, whether you're going to use social media or something like that. So these are the few things that will be important when you want to reposition your brand.
Sir, is
Sure.
position statement is necessary? Because if I say that I will provide this product with less cost, less price, then my competitors will know that I am doing something, or I am technologically advanced, or my efficiency is better, and they will look into me. So isn't it bad? Let's keep it like I'm doing well, something like that.
Okay. So you mean that, what was your question? The last part, say again, the last.
Sir, my question is positioning statement is necessary to give, to announce to the customers? Because when I announce my positioning statements, my competitors will understand that I am doing something right, and they will look into me, and they will try to copy me to get the efficiency as my level. So
Yeah.
is it
It's
important?
really important. It's really important because, see, it's something, it gives clarity inside your mind as well. When you're a business, your positioning statement, it will give you the clarity actually, that who you are, what do you want to become, what are you doing now, what are the limitations. So these are the things that will be answered. So that's why it's really important to have that positioning support. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pause. Question for you. What is the difference between a feature and a benefit? Who is answering?
Benefit can be a feature as well, but all features are not benefits.
Okay. So feature is something that means some characteristics, right? Like some embedded characteristics into something. Whereas benefit is the production of the benefit. So once you feel that, the feature, your product has some great feature, or whatever you're buying a product for your baby or for yourself, whatever that is. But after buying that, you found all the features are there, but the benefit that you're getting from is not that high or that right. Then there's problem. So think about what's feature and benefit. So features are the ones that will shape your product, what your product is capable of. And benefit is what your product will deliver, how your product will create that value. That's what benefit is. Okay, just a quick review of what we discussed so far. What are positioning and differentiation, and why are they important to marketing product or service? So can I just ask someone just to volunteer and give us a brief response on this one? Don't worry about being wrong.
Sir, positioning means something how I want this product into customer's mind.
Mm-hmm.
for example, when I talked about the Chilox, because Chilox position itself as the low cost student friendly place, and that's their positioning. And the differentiation for the Chilox was that they are serving the burgers in low prices.
Yep.
Still, they are serving the burgers in low prices among the among the competitors. So that's their differentiator.
Okay. That's good. Okay. So, few other things. How do marketers develop and evaluate positioning statements based on defined criteria? So the template that we've shared, that's what you can use. How do marketers develop and evaluate positioning statement based on different defined criteria? How do marketers reposition product or services? What are the associated risks and complexities? So reposition, why do you need to do the repositioning? That you need to work out. Okay, right. I feel like I've been throwing lots of information at your end, which is what I don't like to do. I'm more of a talking person, as you can see, the number of surveys and everything. All right, we've covered this one, so not going through that again. All right, now brand positioning and positioning is the same, but we're just adding the brand or the companies. I mean, whatever the company is. So first, in your brand positioning, your frame of reference. So again, as Naim or whoever that was addressed the question, what is or how do you position? So every brand, they need to have that position, and they need to start with the frame of reference at the very beginning. So as we were talking about the frame of reference, so frame of reference is simply your jurisdiction, or the area in which you can actually offer your product or service, right? If you have someone offers only product and service, no other aspects, and that's a different thing. Points of parity is the difference. So what are those points of parity that you have to identify? And then finally, you have to develop a brand mantra. So brand mantra is, again, a catchphrase or a slogan that will differentiate. So this helps you position your brand. Right, look, I mean, we will wrap up our discussion, but before that, I want all of you to do a quick reflection. So I want you to just quickly randomly put into some breakout rooms, and then I want you all to just go there, have a quick discussion with your team members, and after that, we will have a big group of discussion. Okay, so I'm going to write the question on the chat screen, and I'm also gonna create the breakout rooms. So I want you to very quickly, so far we talked about a lot about brand positioning and repositioning and all of these things. We talked about the strategies, the steps of positioning as well. So I want you to just quickly, within a group, I'll give you a question on the chat screen. Let me just set up the rooms. And then this is going to be like a random